Let's talk now about operators in Python. Python has all of the operators that you'd expect to find in a programming language, where an operator, as we mentioned earlier, is sort of like one of the types of verbs in Python, where we're doing things to values that we have. So in this image I have to represent this lecture, I have A and then some symbol and B, and this is representative of what operators do. So for example, we've seen the assignment operator. If you can imagine putting an equals symbol where I have this square to represent any symbol, we would take the value in B and assign it to A. So A equals B is like saying we're giving the value in B a name A. Now there are also other operators. There are arithmetic operators, plus, minus, times, and divide. So for example, A plus B would be the sum of A and B. A times B would be the product, and so on and so forth. We also have these sort of funky operators here, which are a mix of assignment operators and arithmetic operators. The way this works is that, say you have x equals x plus 1, that is identical to x plus equals 1. So if we have x equals x plus 1, that's the assignment operator saying we're giving the value x plus 1 the name x. And that is identical to x plus equals 1. So that's saying add 1 to the current value of x. And so on for these other operators here. We have an exponentiation operator, which is 2 asterisks in Python. We have a modulo operator, which divides two numbers and keeps only the remainder. So if we do a %b, that will give us the remainder of a divided by b. And then the complement to that is floor division. If we do a//b, that will divide a by b and keep only the part that's evenly divisible. It will drop the remainder. And we also have a very important class of operators called comparison operators, which return a Boolean value. So equals equals is how you check whether two things are equal in Python. It's distinct from a single equals, which again is the assignment operator, to give something a name. And so if we had a equals equals b, if a were equal to b, that would return true. If a were not equal to b, that would return false. The complement to that is not equals, which is exclamation point equals. And then we also have operators for less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. Now each of these comparison operators returns a Boolean value, and we can use logical operators on these Boolean values. So if we have true and true, the result of that is true. If we have true and false, the result of that is false. So we're doing Boolean logic with the operators and, or, and not. Now the and or operators use what's called short circuit evaluation. So as soon as Python knows that the whole statement is either true or false, it stops operating on that statement. So for example, if we had true or false, it wouldn't matter what the second value is, because true or anything else is always true. And so it would stop operating as soon as it sees true or, and that's called short circuit evaluation. Now we can also use parentheses to define the operator precedence. So this works the same way it does in your math class, right? Python will do order of operations as you'd expect, but you can use parentheses to clarify how the operation should work. Now we also have identity and membership operators, is and in. Is sort of like equals equals, except it checks whether two structures in memory, two pieces of data, are exactly the same pieces of data, that they live at the exact same location in memory, not just that they're equal to each other. And then in is useful for things like lists and character strings. So you could say a single character in a character string, and that would be true or false depending on whether that is found within the character string. Now bitwise operators work on individual bits, so we'll not really be talking about these. These are relatively uncommon, and if you need to use these, I'd recommend researching them further. They won't be covered in this course. And we can also use something called an assignment expression, which is also called the walrus operator because it looks kind of like a walrus turned on its side with its eyes and its tusks. And this is similar to the assignment operator, except it can work within a statement in Python. So generally you'd be using the assignment operator on its own line of Python code, but you can also use it within a statement by using this colon equals symbol. And more information about these operators can be found in the Python documentation. And I'll mention that, again, we're going to see most of these as we learn more about the language, so there's no need to try and memorize them now. But I would say that things like assignment operators, arithmetic operators, comparison operators, and logical operators are very important to have an awareness of and to know how to use as you learn more Python. I'm not going to go through the supplemental material here because it contains some features that we haven't seen in Python yet, but this gives some examples for the different operators that I've mentioned so far. And so if you're confused about any of these, it might be a good idea to look through this so you can see how they're used in practice. So this will clarify things like how comparison operators work and what short circuit evaluation is, although this does use some structures that we haven't seen yet. And this will talk more about bitwise operators, the is operator, and that assignment expression or walrus operator.